If you recognize even 3 things on this list, then you didn't just grow up in a different time. You grew up in a different world. These weren't rare or special back then. They were simply part of everyday life. But today, looking back, it almost feels impossible that this was normal. And the closer we get to number 1, the stronger the memories become. In the 1960s, kids often rode in cars with almost no safety rules at all. Children were free to roam around the back seat, or even the front. Tiny babies sometimes sat in seats that simply hooked over the bench, with barely any straps holding them in place. Cars back then weren't built with kids' safety in mind, so nobody thought twice about letting them wiggle between adults or move around while the car was rolling. And who didn't love taking a nap under the back window? It was a different world for car safety, but those classic 1960s family cars still hold some of the fondest memories. Kids in the 60s had sugar in practically everything, and parents didn't worry much about it. Breakfast often meant bowls of sugary cereals like Sugar Crisp or Sugar Pops, and snacks included ding-dongs and Marshmallow Fluff. Soda was a regular drink, and kids could easily go through a bottle of sugary pop in an afternoon. Lunchboxes were packed with sweet treats too, putting cups, candy, and sugary snacks alongside your bologna sandwich. There were no real rules about sugar, so kids happily indulged in all the sweet goodness. Toys in the 1960s were a far cry from today's safe, plastic options, and many came with real risks. Lawn darts, for example, were sharp and dangerous, yet kids loved hurling them through the air, trying to dodge them. The Swingwing was basically a hula hoop for your head, leaving sore necks and headaches in its wake. The Thing Maker involved heating plastic molds, which could easily burn you. And the six-finger toy fired small projectiles, putting eyes at risk. All of these toys were risky, but to kids, they were thrilling. Homes and schools were full of hidden dangers back then. Lead paint covered walls and even toys, yet kids touched it, sometimes putting it in their mouths, completely unaware. Asbestos was everywhere, in ceilings, insulation, and buildings, and there were no warnings about it. Kids were constantly exposed, but nobody seemed to think much of it. Swimming spots were anywhere a kid could find water. Creeks, ponds, rivers, these were playgrounds without supervision. Strong currents, rocks, even polluted water didn't stop kids from diving in. Life jackets and lifeguards were never a thought, and on hot summer days, it wasn't unusual to see kids jumping off bridges or cliffs, carefree and fearless. Cigarette smoke filled homes, cars, and public places. Kids grew up surrounded by it, whether at the dinner table, in living rooms, or even inside a car with windows rolled up. Smoking was everywhere, and secondhand smoke was just part of life. Parents also often left kids alone in cars, and the temptation of the gear shifter was too great to resist. Cars were simple back then, and moving the gear in a neutral wasn't hard. Without the parking brake, the car might roll, and chasing it down was just another summer adventure. The terror of rolling backward into traffic was only slightly worse than the scolding once your parents found out. Mercury was another common fascination for kids in the 60s. Broken thermometers revealed shiny liquid metal that fascinated little hands, often rolled around without a clue it was toxic. Science experiments at school sometimes included mercury, and nobody really stopped kids from handling it, unaware of the long-term dangers. Inspired by superheroes or Mary Poppins, kids often try to fly. Jumping off anything climbable with homemade wings or an open umbrella was standard. Broken bones were a possibility, but the thrill and the belief it might actually work kept kids trying. Catholic schools were strict, and many kids feared the nuns. Punishments included ruler wax or public embarrassment, meant to teach respect and discipline. Parents usually didn't step in, believing that tough measures build character. Kids also explored dangerous places for fun, like open sewers or drainage pipes. Risks of getting lost, trapped, or encountering bacteria didn't stop them. Storms could flood these tunnels, gases could be present, but the excitement of adventure outweighed the dangers. Chemistry sets were a favorite, full of real chemicals and no supervision. Mixing substances could create small explosions or toxic fumes, but the fun of making things fizz, bubble, or even catch fire was irresistible. Summertime meant long hours outside, often without sunscreen. Most parents didn't understand sun exposure, and a deep tan was considered healthy. Sunburns were common, and kids played without worry. Products promising faster tans were everywhere, and nobody thought about skin cancer decades later. The 1960s were also a time of looking forward. The space race inspired futuristic furniture shaped like rockets, pods, and capsules. Kids wore plastic-like suits and matching headgear, drank Tang, and watched shows like The Jetsons, Star Trek, and Lost in Space, dreaming of other worlds. Pop culture was full of mania: Beatlemania, Batmania, and Bondmania. Spy movies and TV shows were everywhere. Dean Martin in Matt Helm, James Coburn in Our Man Flint, Get Smart, the man from UNCLE, and the Wild Wild West. Kids adored the gadgets, beautiful spies, and cool cars, while the Cold War backdrop made it feel even more thrilling. Then came the Beatles in 1964. Their Ed Sullivan performance captured 73 million viewers and launched Beatlemania in the US. Mop-top hairstyles became the rage, a dramatic shift from the short, conservative 1950s cuts, quickly copied by teenagers everywhere. As a kid in the 1960s, you'd see ads for sea monkeys all the time in comic books, and you couldn't help but order the creatures. These were actually brine shrimp that were in a state of suspended animation, and they would come back to life when you added water. Although they looked nothing like the sea monkeys pictured in the ads, that didn't stop kids from spending the dollar to buy them. And the marketing ploy continued to charm kids throughout the 1960s. Before there were legitimate hair straighteners available to buy, there were actual irons that people used on clothing. So women in the 1960s who wanted to straighten their hair used the household appliance to make it happen. Laying over an ironing board while mom ironed your hair was a pretty common scene when you wanted to rid your hair of pesky waves. The danger of burning your hair or even your head was a risk that these girls were willing to take to get that long, straight look. Cars in the 1960s were a big deal, and it is evident by how many people took pictures posing on the hood of their car. Confident young men and women everywhere climbed on top of the car and would pose while someone else snapped a picture. Hoods were built differently back then and could easily support someone's weight, so it made getting that classic photo possible. Speaking of cars, there was another fad that had kids piling into small cars like a Volkswagen Beetle just to see how many people would fit inside. Car stuffing, as it was called, was even a world record-setting competition during this time. To make it count, all windows and doors had to be able to close completely. For most, though, car stuffing just meant you and all of your friends piling into one car to cruise up and down the main strip on a Saturday night. These weren't just objects. They were part of daily life, back when life moved slower and moments stayed longer. If any of these took you back, share which one in the comments. And if you believe memories like these deserve a place, subscribe and keep them alive, because time moves forward, but memories don't have to disappear.